Okay, let's just dive right in. You hear it all the time, right? To get ahead with AI, you got to learn to code, become some kind of data scientist. But what if that's just completely wrong? In this explainer, we're going to dig into a really powerful idea that winning in this new age of AI isn't about your technical skills. It's about having a very specific way of thinking.
So let me ask you something. When you really think about using AI more at work, what's that first thing that pops into your head? What's the roadblock? Is it just how complicated it all seems? All the jargon? Or maybe just finding the time to learn it all?
Well, here's the thing, and it might surprise you. It's almost definitely not about your technical chops or what you studied in college. I mean, the people who are really crushing it with AI right now, they're not necessarily the ones with the fanciest degrees.
And this quote, man, it just hits the nail on the head. The biggest wall you're going to hit is psychological. It's all about the stories we tell ourselves, you know? Oh, I'm not an AI person, or this is for the tech guys, or that this big change is something that just happens to us instead of something we can actually drive.
Okay, so that brings us to our first big idea here. We've got to make this mental leap from seeing AI as the scary thing coming for our jobs to seeing it for what it is, a brand new, powerful tool just sitting there, waiting for us to pick it up.
And look at this. This slide just lays it out so perfectly. You've got two paths, right? On one side, you have that defensive mindset. It's all about fear. It's asking, is this thing going to replace me? It's all about protecting your turf. But then, on the other side, you've got the curious mindset. And that's all about possibility. It's asking, wow, what can I create with this? Just that one little shift in thinking changes the entire game, from just surviving to actually thriving.
All right, so let's see how this whole mindset thing actually plays out in the real world, inside a company, because it's not just about what you believe personally, it's about the role you decide to take on. And this is a really important distinction to make. I mean, it's easy to think, hey, I use a couple AI tools, I'm good to go. But there is a massive difference between just, making your own tasks a little faster and actually transforming your whole organization. So, which one are you aiming for?
And here's the breakdown, the key difference. An orchestrator, they're tactical. They're focused on their own little world, their own workflow. They're asking, how can I automate this specific task? But a champion? Oh, a champion is strategic. They're thinking about the whole company's future. They're asking the big question, how can we, as a team, win in our market? It's just a huge, huge shift in both scope and ambition. And then you've got the total opposite of a champion, the blocker. You know this person. While the champion's saying, hey, let's run some safe experiments and see what happens, the blocker just sees risk everywhere. The champion is asking, how can we do things differently? And the blocker is clinging on for dear life, saying, but we've always done it this way. Honestly, the choice between these two mindsets can make or break a team's future. It's that serious. So what does it actually take to be a champion? Well, it kind of boils down to these 5 things. First, it's not just being curious, it's being relentlessly curious. You're not just reading articles, you're actually getting your hands dirty and trying stuff. Then, it's having that growth mindset. And this next one is so critical. It's understanding your organization, the politics, the culture. Then you've got to design smart, safe experiments. And finally, you have to get the permission, the air cover, to actually run them.
Okay, so theory is one thing, but let's see what this looks like in the trenches. Let's look at 3 quick stories of real people who embraced this mindset and got some pretty incredible results.
So first up, meet Priya. She's an HR leader, and her problem wasn't really a tech problem at all. It was a people problem. Her recruiting team was just completely burned out from sifting through resumes manually, and because the whole process was so slow, they were losing the best candidates to companies that could move faster. So what did Priya do? Instead of just dropping a new tool on her team and saying, deal with it, she proposed a safe 90-day experiment. The key part? Every single AI decision was checked by a human. She dealt with their fears directly. And the results? Whoa. Response times went from days down to hours. And everybody, the recruiters and the candidates, was way, way happier. That's a huge win for a champion.
Okay, next up is David. He's a product manager at a fintech company that's, let's just say, very risk averse. He saw competitors using AI to personalize everything, but his bosses were totally focused on compliance and the bottom line, not innovation. I'm sure that sounds familiar to a lot of you. David's genius move was all about translation. He learned to speak the language his CEO understood. He didn't go in there talking about cool new tech. Nope, he talked about revenue and compliance. He actually framed his AI project as a way to increase customer trust, not risk it. And because he lined everything up with what the company already cared about, he got the go-ahead and delivered a 15% jump in customer engagement. Brilliant.
And finally, let's talk about Lisa. She was a manager, and her operations team was absolutely terrified of being automated out of a job. This is such a common story, right? That fear of being replaced. A top-down mandate would have been a total disaster here.
So Lisa's approach was just fantastic. She created a safe little sandbox for her team to run their own experiments. She didn't just celebrate the wins, she celebrated what they learned, even from the stuff that didn't work. And by giving them that control, she turned their fear into a sense of ownership. The team chose to adopt AI on their own. And guess what? Their productivity shot up by 30%. She created the conditions for change instead of just forcing it on them.
Okay, so these stories prove it can be done. It's totally possible. The big question now is, how do you start? This last section is all about your personal game plan, a practical guide to building that champion mindset for yourself.
And here it is, a clear, totally manageable plan. Look, it starts super simple. Just cultivate curiosity. Just play with the tools for a few weeks. Then you move on to really understanding your company, then asking better questions, then running one tiny safe experiment, and from there you build momentum. See how this isn't some weekend cram session? It's a structured journey, week by week.
And that whole journey, it really has to start with some honest self-reflection. Just ask yourself, when I think about AI, do I feel more curious or more threatened? Do I actually believe I can learn this stuff? And that last question on the slide is so powerful. What would really change if you just gave yourself 30 minutes a week? No pressure, just to play around with AI.
Now, after you've looked inward, you've got to look outward. This is that whole organizational fluency thing. What does your company really care about? Like deep down. Who are the people who actually make the decisions? What's the real vibe around risk and trying new things? And maybe most importantly, who are your potential allies? You've got to figure that out before you pitch a single idea. And this quote right here is really the big takeaway from all of this. Becoming an AI champion, it's not just about adding a new skill to your LinkedIn profile. It's about stepping up and actually leading your team, and maybe even your whole company through one of the biggest changes of our lifetime. When you really think about it, it's an act of leadership.
So let's bring it all home and end where we started, with a question for you. You don't need some grand strategy or a massive budget to get going. You can start today, this week. So what's it going to be? What's the smallest, safest, most interesting little experiment you could try? Your journey to becoming an AI champion, it starts with that one simple answer.